This is just keeping up with the theme of this kind of being the Gunner Stockton, question asking session. Seeing him that first run, I guess he had against Texas, he kind of got up, talked a little trash before coming back to the huddle. Is that kind of the fiery type of player that he is, or was that kind of out of character for him? What's he like for you guys when you're competing on a daily basis in practice?
Yeah, I mean, he is a one of those guys that can just flip a switch. Off the field is completely different than he is on the field. He's a competitor at the end of the day. Obviously, when he was in high school, he was one of the best to ever do it in Georgia. And he has that fire underneath him.
Chaz, I guess I'm wondering about some of the MMA stuff. How much of that translates and what skills can be applied to football and what has that, I guess, just done for you personally in your development as a player?
Yeah, I mean, just reaction time, hand placement, location where you put your hands, being able to use leverage and use people's body weights against them. That's basically my job on our defense. I'm going against guys that are always bigger than me, and just having to have great hand placement and use their leverage against them.
Chaz, I just wondered when the season began, would you have put money on yourself being tied with Jalen Walker for the team lead in sacks at this point in the season? And I guess just how cool is that? And hey, did he give you a hard time about that at all?
I mean, I don't really care about the stats or anything like that. I just when they come, they come. I play the same no matter what. And me and Jen don't really focus on the stats. It's more about just the win at the end of the day. Just both of us trying to make plays for this defense and get us to a championship.
Was going to ask you about, competing against guys like him and like Jalen and Michael, and how does that push you? And when we talk about competition, what are things that you actually compete? Are we just not talking just sprints, but lifts? I mean, how does it work in that competitive world you guys have?
Yeah, I mean, it's not always just competition. It's about always pushing each other too. It's a long season, and we all need each other to push us at times. There's times we may not want to practice or do a lift or run, but there's times that we need each other to push each other and just remind each other that we're doing it for something bigger.
There's a lot of talk. There's a lot of talk all the time between.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Chaz, it seems like the word of the day for the defense has been being more consistent throughout the playoff. As a defensive front, what does that look like? How are you guys trying to be a more consistently, I guess, disruptive force looking ahead to Notre Dame?
Yeah, I mean, just staying in your gaps, taking on a double team, not avoiding, not swimming out of your gap, keeping it in the edge, so that the backers and the secondary can fill off of you. Just everybody doing their job because when we do it right, I mean, it shows for itself. So,
In the season, sometimes we'll talk about Bloody Tuesday and how intense things get at practice. Now that you guys kind of have 3 weeks off from practice, is it still like that, or is it like that even more? And what's it been like out there for you?
yeah, we definitely have not had 3 weeks off from practice. We call it winter camp for us because we go back to camp schedules. Practice is like a spring practice or a camp practice where it's more competition based. We don't have scouts most of the time. We're going one on ones, we're going ones on twos, and just trying to push each other to get better. We always say it's about us and not about them.
At this point, we'll switch over for a couple questions on Zoom.
Hey, first up, Charles Odom, Associated Press.
If I can follow up on what you were saying about Gunner being one of the best to ever do it instead of Georgia, and the era of today's NIL, when a guy tops standards set by Trevor Lawrence, that commonly can be reflected by what he walks out to in the parking lot, and he's walking out to as I understand it, a 40-year-old pickup truck. What does that tell you about Gunner? And I'm not saying it's not a good-looking truck, but does that make him different?
Yeah, I mean, he's just down to the earth type of guy, blue collar guy. I mean, if it's worked for him so far, I mean, there's no reason to change it up. He's not all about the flash. He's all about just being in the game and being with his teammates.
Okay, Bailey Burmaster, Atlanta News First.
When you're looking at the tape on Notre Dame, what do you feel like stands out the most about this team?
The speed at running back. Once Love hits the hole, he's pretty much gone. Obviously against last game, that 98-yarder, he outran the first layer, second layer, and third layer of their defense. And I also have two other good backs, 24 and 20. All of them run really hard, and their offense barely messes up. They're a very disciplined group. They never really let anybody in gas they're not supposed to be. They block who they're supposed to block, and it all comes down to just who's better man on man.
I'll go back inside the room. Do you have any questions for Chaz?
This will be your fourth, I guess, postseason with Georgia in terms of bowl game playoff. Do you still keep any of that swag that they give you? And also, do you have any memories besides the wins that stand out about those trips that you've made?
Yeah, I have a lot of gear. Main thing that just sticks out is the locker room, probably at the end of every single postseason. Seeing those guys in their last games, how emotional they are, and just the handing down of the torch. Obviously, the past couple times during the postseason, we've been able to let the seniors come off of the field and kind of hand that torch off to the next generation of players. And those moments are just probably the ones that stick out the most.
Chaz, I asked you about this. One of the underrated storylines about y'all's season is you had two interior defensive linemen healthy. You've been beat up along the defensive front all season long. What is it like now that all of those guys are healthy, and you guys kind of have a full allotment of how you kind of started camp, or maybe even healthier than you were when you started camp now?
Yeah, I mean, it just builds confidence because even while those guys were out, those guys stepped up. They got game experience, and that's just better for our defense because in the game of football, you don't know who's going to stay in, who's going to go down. It's all unpredictable, and just to have that depth that was created throughout the season is it's just really good for our defense.
Chaz, you were reflecting a second ago on end of the year and seniors and emotion. And I know you take every game real serious, but does this one hit different knowing this theoretically could be your last trip, knowing this is it for you?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't really try and think about those things. Just focus on winning the game because if we win, it's not my last. Obviously, we want the last one to be in the championship, obviously. And doing everything to make sure that all my other seniors and all the upperclassmen go out on a good hand.
Any questions for Chaz? Okay, Chaz. Thank you, sir. Thanks, Chaz.